Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. Should you let your technique slip a little bit at the end of a set to get a few more stimulative reps? Let's break this down. I'm not really sure what the answer is, and I don't write these slides. Scott, the video guy, does. He's the real brains behind this operation. I'm just here reading off a script. I can barely read. So people will say things like, sometimes you got to let your technique slip for a few extra reps at the end. Is this true? Well, let's step back a little bit to try to figure this out. The way I see it, there is a 3-tier hierarchy, like a proto-pyramid, a ziggurat or whatever, in hypertrophy training, with the baseline layer being the most important, the second layer being the second most, and the top layer being the least important, but the sort of cherry on top. To me, inside of a single set of hypertrophy training, there's the following 3-tier hierarchy. First, the very bottom, most important bedrock layer is technique, because your technique is the plan for how you're going to execute each rep. And because you plan to execute each rep in a certain way, ostensibly, hopefully in reality, that plan should be how to get the most out of each rep, the highest quality per rep execution to get the most stimulus possible and the least fatigue possible. That's what good technique is, just how your reps look. That's the foundation. The second most important thing you can attend to in a set is relative effort. How hard are you pushing? Technique is the guidance trajectory of where you shoot your rocket, and relative effort is how much rocket power you boost behind it. Obviously, if you're fighting a war, if you flip your rocket trajectory to your own forces, it's bad news either way. But if you have the rocket trajectory go into the bad guys area, enough rocket fuel is definitely important. So RIR is definitely important, but it sits on a baseline of technique. Third is the mind-muscle connection. Things like how much tension are you feeling and where, how much pump, how much burn. And it mostly tells you if the technique you picked in number one, your original technique, is spot on or if it could be better. And because as you move in a certain way in a skull crusher, if you're thinking, okay, mind muscle connection, I definitely feel my triceps more if I come back this way a little bit with the bar before going back up, then yes, actually this mind muscle connection and enhancing it grooves my technique into an even better position for more stimulus and less fatigue. So in that sense, the mind muscle connection just reinforces and perfects the technique that you're doing from rep 1, rep 2, 3, 4, etc., all the way through the increasing relative effort of the set. So, coming back to the question, why would you let your technique, which is your number one priority, slip? If you say, well, it's to get more reps, let me get this straight. You're saying that the trade-off of the first priority, number one most important thing, your technique, is worth more of the second priority, which is reps in reserve, RIR, relative effort? That doesn't make any sense. Technique's the most important thing. It makes sure every rep is high quality. If you expand the number of reps you're doing by degrading the quality of the reps, the question could be asked of, why don't you just keep doing high quality reps? There is no good answer to that question, by the way. Now, what if you say, all right, fine. I'm getting more burn at a pump. My mind muscle connection is improving. If let's say my technique goes to hell. Well, hold on a sec. Technique's the number one most important thing. And you're saying rank 3 priority at the very top of that pyramid outclasses everything below it? What? That's nonsense. Countless studies have shown that the mind-muscle connection isn't ultra super important to training, especially for beginners and intermediates. Technique, core technique is way more important than if you get a pump or burn or tension or any of that stuff. So, 2 ideas based on this. 1, if your technique slips, assuming your technique was designed to give you the best stimulus to fatigue ratio possible, which it should be, if your technique slips, that means your stimulus to fatigue ratio starts to decline, which means the correct answer of if in a set your technique starts to slip, should you do a couple more reps of slip technique? The answer is no. The answer is pause, myo reps or drop sets, and then continue doing that set. So for example, you wanted 12 reps, you got 10, and you're like, ooh, should I cheat up these next 2? Nope. Put the curl bar down, wiggle out a sec, and then hit the other 2. with perfect technique. That means all the reps are high quality and you got 2 extra reps just because you took a little break. You weren't good enough to keep going. The technique slip would have increased your fatigue and decreased your stimulus per rep. Every rep is quality. Bad tech is not in the menu. Number 2, if you have to alter your technique to maximize the mind-muscle connection, what you have really discovered is the technique you assumed was the best is not the best. In your next set, you should start that maximized mind-muscle connection technique first. If you tell yourself, normally, I go all the way and lock out my dumbbells and come all the way back down. But in one of these sets towards the end, I did what I felt was better for my mind-muscle connection, bigger pump, tension, stretch in the pecs, and actually got my dumbbells up to just where they start to feel a little heavy towards the top, and then I come back down, really focusing on a bottom end partial. Well, the research confirms this now, that in some cases at least, bottom end partials are more effective for hypertrophy than even full range of motion stuff with like needless lockouts. You're training your chest, not your triceps. Why lock it out? That's good reasons. You want to make sure you're tracking properly, whatever. But if you can track well and still just hit the bottom portion for that deep stretch, maybe it's the better answer. Now, what that means is now on dumbbell presses, because you discovered that enhancing the mind-muscle connection gives you a different technique, that in the next set should be your new different technique that you now do for all of the dumbbell presses in the rest of that exercise in the session and week and month and year, because you've actually just discovered a superior technique. A lot of people say like, yeah, man, like when I start to fudge my technique, I actually feel it more. Well, then you should be doing that to begin with. And that should be your good technique. Your best technique is something you want to find and focus on it no matter what. Everything else layers on top of it. Everything begins with good technique. What you call good technique can change over time. As your mind-muscle connection and your awareness of how joints are affected changes, what is the best technique changes over time. But before a single set begins, you should know exactly what technique you're shooting for. It is the thing that doesn't waver. And if you want to push closer to failure, toughen up and do it with good technique. And if you want to go beyond failure, take the weight stack, drop it from 110 pounds to 80 pounds, crank a few more reps. That's beyond failure. Or stop for a few seconds and go again. That's beyond failure too with Maya reps. Cheating your way into altering technique just to get a few more reps is something that is not well thought through. It is not a good idea. That's all I have, folks. Consider doing our members area. The link is in the description. Extra bonus videos, 1 to 2 videos at least every single week that are awesome that you will not catch on the main channel. It's for money, I know, but it's not that much money. And also, we have the RP Hypertrophy app. It's got technique videos, RR prescriptions. It's got the whole thing. It's my favorite app ever to train with, and I built it, so I train with it all the time. Link in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Questions, comments, concerns. See you guys next time.